and then it takes a second. Oh, it went fast on this one. It was just ready to go. Readier than we are. What's happening, everybody? This is not officially the beginning of the show yet. This is the pre-show where I make sure everything is working properly before we actually start the show. But you guys have brought the questions, so that's good. I also had a little game we were going to play, which is, what do you think is actually on Dan's hat? It's not going to be your first guess, I'll tell you that. It says Hebrew National, baby. That's right, your friendly neighborhood National Hebrew over here.
Make hot dogs great again, Dan.
That's right, make hot dogs great. These are the chosen wiener. I'm the chosen wiener. What's up, Brew? Good morning.
You certainly are a wiener, Dan.
I know. Hot dog. I taught my kid to say hot dog, we have a wiener.
Hot dog.
I feel pretty good about that. What's going on? Welcome back from doing a bunch of work that wasn't related to Kristaps Porzingis. That must have been quite an anvil to hit you when you were on the road, right? You were driving for like an hour.
Yeah, I was traveling and getting these updates and just sort of kind of classically not having access to internet and just thinking in my head, what is going on? You know, how is this all shaking out? And as it would turn out, the landscape of the NBA has shifted. No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. NBD.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. We just did a Cause and Brew show, and there's so much to talk about, and it's all so, and especially the characters in the NBA. I mean, this is why the NBA is so great. Is you could go. We were cracking up about Enes Kanter kissing the floor in Madison Square Garden like he's some sort of legend, airballing his next shot. Like he's like the seventh man on a good team, and we love talking about him. So the NBA is great, and definitely when I got back to where the internet was, there's a lot going on. So I'm sure the chat room is nice and full. And
it's hopping.
Shout out to my neighbors. Hey, shout out to my neighbors for having a landscaper hang out all day.
Yeah,
during two shows.
I don't understand why. There was actually one time where, and this is sort of, I don't know, maybe this is just me being a butthole, but like when my kid used to nap at around noon, and the person that we live right in the back of our apartment complex. So the back of our building is on an alleyway, which is awesome, by the way, because that means we get almost no street noise of any kind back here. But there was somebody like air blowing the alleyway for like 4 hours one time. And finally, like a half an hour into my kid's nap, I just walked outside and was like, can you guys just, like, if you're going to be doing this for 7 hours, can you just find something else to do for the next 90 minutes instead of just rotating on and off with the super loud stuff? Just do it all at once or do it all later. Because if my kid doesn't nap, I'm going to be a lot meaner when I come out next time. But it doesn't matter. How's everything else? How's life?
Life is great, actually. You know, the neighbors landscaper aside. You know, actually, I wouldn't even care if these neighbors were cool. These neighbors on Christmas Eve, mind you, came over and knocked at the door at like midnight and complained about a parking infraction where the back of a bumper was maybe 6 inches in their space. They had clear access to their driveway and could get in, and also could have parked in front of their house on the street.
Good
But
Lord.
these people are such chodes that they knocked on the door at like 11:30 on Christmas Eve night and were pissed.
No,
Like, you wouldn't believe it. We were just looking at them like, what are you on?
Yeah,
and
that's when you got to give them 2 birds, flip them 2 birds, and send them off into the night. Bye-bye.
Other than that, everything's great, Dan. I love everything that's going on with the site. I mean, I can't say enough about what you're doing on the AV side, what Panda's doing on the content side. What's going on in the background on the funding side is extremely exciting right now. And, you know, technically our guys are doing very well as well. So that is good. It makes me happy. Fantasy makes me happy.
Yes.
So,
we're in a, well, whatever. We can do this at the beginning of the actual show, but I was going to celebrate the fact that we seem to be getting to a
getting
point
healthy.
Getting healthy. So I'm going to shut us down here for 5 seconds. We're coming in hot with the "we're getting healthy" at the beginning of the real show. Sit tight, everybody.
To shut up.
That's right. Real show begins in 5, That's right, everybody. It's Fantasy NBA Today live on YouTube. Dan Besbris, Aaron Bruski taking your questions over the next hour. And also getting healthy. Not the two of us. I've been healthy for like 4 weeks, which is an accomplishment when you have a 2-year-old living in the house. And Brew, you've been healthy. You had that week where you took all sorts of delightful antihistamines and you were really funny to talk to for a couple of days in there. But now
as opposed to now?
Yeah, now you're just a happy-go-lucky man with a loud neighbor. But our teams are getting healthy. Is it time to rejoice yet? Can we roll out the mission accomplished banner?
Well, you never quite want to roll out a mission accomplished banner. It's good. It's good. I mean, like the trade that we're going to obviously get into is throwing a slight monkey wrench into things because I think a lot of us have guys like Mitchell Robinson, Luke Cornett on our teams. You know, there's probably a little bit of Enes Kanter going around, and that's all got to get resolved here in the next couple of weeks. But no, it's good. I mean, when Kent Bazemore returned, that was huge for hoop ballers because they weren't really providing updates, and it's the Hawks, so you just don't know what's going on there. So he comes back this week, so we can have him pretty much ready for next week. And yeah, just a lot of red crosses, man, all up and down the rosters. And I don't think it's just our teams. I think it's around the league, around the fantasy leagues. This has been as injury-ridden as I've seen in a couple years. So hopefully we can get out of that.
Yeah, I think without being too doom and gloomy, I do think we got hit a little bit harder because a lot of the guys that were out for 4 to 6 weeks and still are were guys that we all had at hoop ball, like Bazemore, Jonas Valanciunas, guys like Rob Covington, who we love, and he's still out. Yeah, exactly. So,
and what's weird about it is these are all stupid injuries that you can't plan for.
No.
Like a broken finger or a thumb is not something, unless you have a history of hand injuries, like say like Chris Paul or something. Like you can't plan for this stuff. And so, you know, looking, you know, however these guys finish, I'm not going to be like, oh, you know, Spencer Dinwiddie, what a bust, man. He, you know, had a torn ligament in his thumb, like, or whatever. Clint Capella didn't finish as high as he could. This stuff is random. And I'll tell you, I was surviving it early and not really worrying too much, but they just kept piling up, man. And so it's been a little bit tough. We've been relying on great pickups like Rashawn Holmes. And even
I was going to say, he was hurt too. He's not alone.
Yeah, but you know what? He did get a game.
Yeah.
Or 2, actually.
He did.
And he's been great. So, you know, that's why you make the waiver wire pickups that you make, you know, so you can have backups when all this stuff goes down.
All right, well, we'd be remiss if we didn't start the show by talking about the Porzingis trade. That's the thing on everybody's mind, and it should be because it's a massive deal. Kristaps Porzingis, obviously the centerpiece of this thing, along with Tim Hardaway Jr., Courtney Lee, and Trey Burke, sent to the Dallas Mavericks yesterday for Dennis Smith Jr., Wesley Matthews, DeAndre Jordan, and a pair of future first-round picks. This is a massive deal. I tried to do like a 20-tweet storm on it to just sort of talk everybody through the way to think about something like this. But let me attack it from a different direction with you, Brew. Do you think the Knicks are going to play DeAndre Jordan or Wes Matthews at all? That's my first question. Do they see the floor with New York? It sounds like they might.
I love Enes Kanter's Twitter account when Scott Perry, who I don't know, man, you know, this kind of stuff has followed him around, and he goes to the Knicks where they're just the captains of dysfunction that, you know, you just never know what these people are going to do. It sounds like they didn't like Kanter and they wanted him out, and so they just didn't play him, and he was too squeaky about the whole situation. So they come out and they say that these veterans could help the young guys, and Enes Kanter tweets that little thinking face that whenever you want to say somebody's stupid, you use the thinking face, and then he says LOL. So like he's drawing the obvious contrast between, you know, do you play your veterans or do you not? And what they've done in the past is they've sat Enes Kanter. I don't think we see Wes Matthews because there's already interest around the league for him, and a buyout is, you know, seems to be imminent there. So that's one down. But as far as DeAndre Jordan goes, I do think he gets bought out. I'm not 100% sure on either of them. I'm probably more sure on Wes than I am on DeAndre Jordan. You know, you still want to play both your young centers if you're the Knicks and see what you have there. And DeAndre Jordan's not going to really add too much, but they might get to a point where DeAndre Jordan wants to play and doesn't want to sit out. You know, he's been a gamer his entire career. And, you know, he might want to not necessarily rehab his value, but not completely go away, you know, before he has to get out there in free agency. So I would say probably 60% chance that DeAndre Jordan
coming after
you're laughing, man. You're laughing.
I am.
You're laughing, and I'm just gonna let it roll off my back.
Yeah,
it's gonna be all good.
Vroom, vroom, vroom goes the neighbor. That's ridiculous.
Well, it's funny because like I don't think he's accomplishing anything. You know, I've been watching from upstairs a little bit, and I see these leaves moving back and forth, but I don't really see them getting anywhere.
He's just like standing right outside your window, looking at you with a sideways glance, blowing it right at your window. Hey, Brew.
You know what? It's not his fault. It's not his fault. It's the neighbor's fault, Dan.
It's the trees'
and we covered that
fault.
on the live portion of the show.
Harumph. Harumph. So, it's the trees for shedding their leaves. That's whose fault it is.
I'm a woof somebody, Dan.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
I saw you like that tweet I sent out about the Lakers needing to woof Dell Demps. That's right. I try to get one of those out every week. That's our – I don't know why that became our thing over here, but it is, damn it. So we're rolling with it. All right, so fantasy value-wise then. Knicks side first. Presumably, in a week, all of this begins to sort itself out. Mitchell Robinson, Luke Cornett, how do you like them finishing up the year?
I think you can't drop either of them. I mean, I know, and I watched your tweets, and I know people have limited roster space, and it's tough, but like Cornett in 25 minutes is just going to be great to own. And where are you going to find that upside right now? You know, find somebody on your roster that's got low upside, that's, you know, a lower, just a lower value player, and try whatever you can to hold on. It's Cornett Robinson. I don't think you could drop at all.
No, like, I agree with that one.
I mean, he can be good in 12 minutes, as you tweeted. So,
crazy,
and
right?
he's somebody that front office has made a pick for. They've put a lot of stock into him. So he's probably, if I had to pick between the two, I'd go Robinson over Cornett because there's more attachment there. But I think both of them got to be held. You just got to find a way to make it happen.
All right, on the Dallas side, this one seems a little bit simpler, but still not really. The impression I get here is that with the Mavs, this move basically says we are gunning for next year more so than this year. They're already on the outside looking in at the playoffs. So if somebody looks at this trade and they're like, oh, they're going for it, I don't think you trade for a 7'3" big man coming off an ACL injury if you're going for it immediately. And you certainly don't send away two of the veterans on your team that were playing 30 minutes apiece and a young guy playing 30 minutes as well. They sent away guys logging 90 minutes this season for four guys logging like 43 or something like that. So I'm of the opinion that they're in no rush to bring Porzingis back, which leaves a pretty big opening in the front court with them, with DeAndre Jordan moving out. Yesterday, we got, well, sort of one game because Doncic wasn't there and none of the new backcourt guys had arrived yet. But we sort of got to look at 24 minutes of Dwight Powell, I think it was 27 or 28 of Maxi Kleber, and a few extra minutes for Salah Mejri, although I presume some of that was Andre Drummond. How does this play itself out going forward? I like Dwight Powell, but I could probably be convinced to lean into the Kleber camp. What do you like with Dallas going forward?
But both of them, actually. I mean, Powell has been just sneaky good, is why he was rated in the Bruski 150. It's why, you know, you've been kind of trying to pick him up anywhere you can in deeper leagues, knowing that the floor is nice and there's this potential for DeAndre Jordan to go down. He's played so many games throughout the years that the odds were against him being able to stack up that many games in a row over the course of his career. So, you know, I have Powell in a few very deep leagues already. And, you know, with Kleber, he is just got this dynamic shot blocking ability. He's looked really good on tape. He disappears from time to time, and I think that's what stalled out his fantasy momentum. So I'm more inclined to bet on Powell because even when he's bad, he's kind of good in the sense that he doesn't hurt you anywhere. He gives you just enough to where it doesn't hurt, where Kleber could disappear completely. The Salah Mejri thing is a reminder that Rick Carlisle has really not ever been comfortable giving either Powell or Kleber consistent minutes in the high 20s and, let alone the low 30s in the past. So it does temper some enthusiasm, but I think you could look at it like this. I think you got Powell probably locked in for 24 or 25 minutes per game going forward. And that alone will get him over the standard league hump. Then you got the upside after that. Because if he ever gets 30 minutes, I do think he's going to be a top 80, 90 guy pretty easily. And the same thing with Kleber, if he does get that kind of consistent run. And there's another factor here is they don't quite yet know how to use those two in the front court as primary or more primary weapons in the offense. They've been so heavy with DeAndre Jordan and even Wes Matthews. So as this team learns how to play, especially with your new guys, you're going to have Tim Hardaway Jr. come in. I think both he and Courtney Lee get minutes. So I don't know about the minute, deficiency per se, because THJ is going to play a lot. And he's probably going to play pretty well when you think about it. He goes from dysfunction and lack of talent, and he goes and he gets to play with Luka Doncic and a good coach and Rick Carlisle. So I think Tim Hardaway Jr. gets a bump up in this situation. And Courtney Lee, I don't buy the neck injury. I mean, it's possible he did have a neck thing, but the writing was on the wall for him in New York well into the summer. He wasn't going to play a lick. He was not thrilled about it. But he became resigned to the fact that he wasn't going to play. So he could have a little mini resurgence as well. So I think the minutes will get backfilled into the rotation that way. Somebody like Jalen Brunson's always been on the radar. But I don't know that he gets up over the hump. His stat set hasn't been quite good enough to get there. You also have Trey Burke that they'll probably kick the tires on and see what they got there. So it's really about the big men. And, if somebody like Powell starts getting put more into the pick and roll, same thing with Kleber, you might see the consistency of their offense jump up. And then that also, energizes players and they might get more active on the defensive end as well. So I like both of them as pickups in standard leagues.
Jumping to the next spot where things are very warm in the oven these days, and that's New Orleans. Nolans, excuse me, I got to pronounce that right. Anthony Davis, Nico Mirotic, Julius Randle, Elfrid Payton, Etuan Moore. All of them are out right now. Nico was sort of the only guy who went down with an injury before all of this weird stuff began. The other ones have all just kind of been floating, and it's weird. It's extremely weird. I still have a measure of optimism that these guys play again this season. On a scale from complete apocalypse to rainbows and sunshine farts, where do you sit with the Pelicans, Brew? How many of these guys are actually going to suit up for the Pels again this year? And then what does that mean for Jahlil Okafor?
What is a sunshine fart?
I assume it's when you point your butt straight into the air and you gas sunshine, but I don't know. I've never seen it happen.
That is great versatility, Dan.
Thank you. I do what I can.
So, here's the thing. Like, you hold an asset. You can think about this in any terms. You own a house that, may or may not have asbestos, and you need to sell that thing. Or what your car, like, that there's this noise in the engine and it's not quite apparent. Like,
you mean when you take it in, you're like,
I'm not advocating.
Please don't make the noise. Please don't make the noise. Off. I know that because I got to jump in here because it's not a car for me. It was a much smaller thing, and I just got to tell this quick story. I had a broken PlayStation 2 many years ago. It was like 15 years ago. And I knew it was broken, and I knew the eye wasn't working. But it worked like 1 out of every 6 times. And I took it to a GameStop, and I remember handing it to them, and I was like, please work, please work, please work, please work. And they booted it up, and boom! It worked the one time that they needed it to work. And so I got like $70 for it instead of $8. And that was a big deal. And that's what you're talking about? Is that just with Anthony Davis, or is that with everybody?
Well, aside from the ethics involved with his Dan.
That's fine. It was GameStop. You'll never know.
You never. Well, yeah. Screw those guys. Anthony Davis. Anybody that plays fantasy knows he leaves the game once a night. And granted, he probably just has to take a leak. That's probably his thing. But still, like, I've seen countless injuries, that he just sort of plays through. And then obviously the time off, especially early in his career where he didn't play more than 60 some odd games for the first 4 years of his career. And he's sort of stabilized. And people have said, well, look, that's, don't get all worried about his injury risk, based on the past when things weren't that bad. But he's a big man. He's gotten bigger. He's no longer the high-flying Anthony Davis that he once was.
Hello,
he's
neighbors.
Now,
they're just messing with you at this point.
No, honestly, he's blowing the leaves from one side of the yard to the next.
Sorry, please continue.
Anyway, I've been talking through it all day. He's bigger. He's not flying around the court as he used to. Blocks. He's been okay this year, but like these things are all going to accumulate into nicks and bruises. And if they let him play this year, because they want to get to the Boston deal is going to include some collection of picks and probably guys like Jaylen Brown and, pick your other players that you might add from their roster as well. And that is perceived to be better than whatever the Lakers can offer, unless the Lakers really open it up and add some draft picks to their offer. And of course, Anthony Davis wants to get to Los Angeles. He doesn't want to go to Boston. And what you're seeing in Boston is also very revealing, because I think Kyrie Irving sees the writing on the wall that they don't want him around with or without Anthony Davis in a max deal. So he might be angling to New York, as he told everybody today that he doesn't owe anybody expletive. And that the Celtics are in the lead, which is, not exactly warm and fuzzy if you're talking about him staying in Boston. So what this all boils down to is if you do wait for the Boston deal, you better just shut him down. Like, you can't put him out on the court and have him, as a result of all these nicks and bruises and all this, risk that he has, because as a big man, he's jumping around. People are playing at his feet. He could have a Kristaps Porzingis-like injury, and you have nothing, and he's not a part of your future. You're not trying to win games. So the way I look at this is the Lakers have to put out their last best offer, and if that's compelling enough, he goes to LA. If not, over the summer, he probably ends up going to Boston. So it's not good for his future, for fantasy owners. I believe they can't. It would be malpractice to put him on the floor when you're making a deal in the summer. So and I don't think Anthony Davis wants to go through that. So that's another thing. He's issuing comments right now. I'm seeing him go by on Twitter, and he's basically saying, I've given this city enough. It's time for me to move on. Does he really want to get on the court and get booed, after this? So New Orleans is this amazing fantasy landscape with lots of stuff going on right now. I mean, you got a player named Checks Notes, Kenrick Williams, who's balling right now, who's completely putting up numbers. And you got all these players. Like, if I'm a Drew Holiday, first of all, he's one of the best guards in the NBA. He didn't make the All-Star team, which is stupid.
It is stupid. Do you see what he did to James Harden? What he did to James Harden was magnificent.
Of course he was going to do that. Like, what universe does he not do that?
Is he the best Is he the best defensive guard in the NBA right now?
It's close. I mean, there's probably different player types that he might have a little bit more trouble with, the quicker guards.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, I mean, he's got the strength, he's got the instincts, he's got the toughness. He's got it all. And then offensively, it's a shame that he's not being recognized this year, and he might not make it into the playoffs, where people could have another moment like last year where they see, like, he's way better than Damian Lillard. Like, I mean, Lillard's great, don't get me wrong, but a two-way player that
he owned him
can do a lot of what Dame does. Yeah, he owned him, and that's part of the game. I'm sure Rudy Gobert, he's getting quoted right now.
And apparently crying, by the way. Rudy Gobert apparently is sobbing, talking about an all-star snub. So he really wanted it.
Is he really?
Apparently, yeah.
Is he really crying?
I'm seeing that, yeah. Somebody...
Well, good for him. I mean, show some emotion, and he really wanted it. Good for him.
Yeah, it's cool. It's nice to see somebody want it. Okay, but let's really laser focus this thing in. You don't think Anthony Davis suits up for the Pelicans again?
I really don't, man.
Okay.
I mean, maybe in a way to like.
So that means
negotiating strategic ploy, but like.
So you're actually on board with trading him for like a hill of beans, basically. Get out from under it.
I mean, I mean, what can you? Right now, I bet. I think that like immediately everybody was like, they got to wait till the summer, and I think people were thinking like he's going to stay in New Orleans and he's still going to be the focal point. He's still going to have, because you play in LA with LeBron, the numbers might come back a little bit. I think the NBA is going to realize he's not playing anymore. I think your trade value for Anthony Davis is going to go way down. I think like 2 days ago, it might have been like you could get a top 25 guy for Anthony Davis. I think today you might get a top 40 guy. I think tomorrow you might get a top 70.
Would you take a top 40 guy for him right now just to get out from under it?
Yes, I would.
You would. Okay. Yep, but would you take a top 70 guy tomorrow, though?
I would not.
I would not.
No.
Yeah, that's the.
But it might get to the point where things precipitously dive, and you might be looking at, I got to do something like that.
Right. Yeah, I was saying that I thought a team that's in that in between, like 4th, 5th, 6th place, that's a spot where you either think about maybe rolling the dice on Anthony Davis, or if you're worse than that, you kind of need to abandon ship. What about the? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say here, the timing on this is like by the trade deadline, we'll know the answers. So you've got a week here. If he makes it through the week and gets traded to LA, then he's going to be probably a top 5 player no matter what. So I think you probably don't go for anything less than top. A very nice, something on an upward trajectory. You don't go down to top 70. And then if you get to the trade deadline and he's not dealt, then I think in a competitive situation where everybody knows and everybody reads and keeps up, then you start looking, I got to go for a top 60, top 70 guy, because you might get the news any day that he's shut down for the rest of the year.
What about the rest of these guys? So jump into some of these other dudes. Nico Mirotic, Julius Randle, Etuan Moore, Elfrid Payton. Are these guys playing again for the Pels?
Mirotic is an intriguing asset for a couple different teams out there. I think Utah is going to be interested in him. His game travels, so he can be good in 20 minutes per game. So I wouldn't bail out on Nico. He could also stick around and just have a phenomenal end of the year. Same thing with Julius Randle. Now, Julius Randle, his game won't travel well. He needs minutes and volume, and he needs freedom with the basketball to really be what he has been. So I'm more worried. I would be more inclined to try to sell Julius Randle than I would Nico Mirotic. Both, I think, are tradable assets right now.
And then what about Okafor? Jumping back into the guy that's
I think Okafor is the guy they're going to ride the rest of the year. So that was a very prescient pickup by those who jumped into the mix. And, I wish I had him just a tiny bit higher. I think I got him in like 1 or 2 leagues. I wish I'd gotten him in more, because I do think here's your solution to the Anthony Davis issue for the rest of the year. He's going to just get his 30 minutes. He's going to put up these 18 and 8 type numbers and probably be a little bit better in steals and blocks, because unlike the beginning of his career, he's in shape. So I think he's a great hold, add, target type of a player.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought maybe Randle and Nico, if they stay in New Orleans, is there a spot where they could end up sort of pushing him out, or no? It's really AD.
No, I think he becomes a poor man's AD. Those 3 guys, especially with their nicks and bruises, especially in the case of Mirotic, you could give them each 30 minutes a game and be completely fine and give Check Diallo the leftover. And really, it's almost even just like the rest of the rotation that I'm looking at and trying to mine for value. So like a guy, like I mentioned, Kenrich Williams, can he get in there and be, somebody that they latch onto for the rest of the year? Can they give him 30 minutes the rest of the way?
How can there be any leaves left? All the leaves have to be gone by now. What's happening?
That's what I'm telling you. They don't do their yard for an entire decade, it feels like.
What?
And then
you can only blow a leaf across a thing so many times. Eventually, all the leaves are blown.
This dude is definitely charging by the hour.
Yeah, for sure.
That's and more power to him.
I will monologue. I give you full permission to just walk over there.
These people wanted to like replace a fence, and it was like, okay, sure. They walked over with a $10,000 bill for a fence, and they were like, "This is your share." It's like,
you're like, nah. Yeah, I don't think so. You can rent a fence for like $80.
I know a guy who'll do it for $400. Like, probably. Yeah. Anyway, I'm looking at the rest of that roster though, because Elfrid Payton, you don't know what you're going to get out of him health wise. They have a guy like Frank Jackson there that could come in and be a last third of the season guy. Drew Holiday, I think, as long as he's not traded, I think he doesn't want to sit the sidelines. I think he'll play. But if he does get moved somehow, it's a big contract. It's going to be hard to move, and the price will be high. So I'm not really looking at him as a guy that does get moved, but Solo Hill, not really a player. I think they want to turn the page on that. Etuan Moore, consistent guy, but he's been banged up. So I'm trying to find who's going to be the guy in New Orleans as they just go full tank mode. And you also have guys that could land in New Orleans, like I say, Alonzo Ball.
Yeah, although it sounds like now he wants to go to Phoenix or so. Whatever. We don't need to get into that right now. That's the rumor mill stuff. I want to jump to the next team. I have a theory, Aaron Bruski, and my theory is the Indiana Pacers will come out of their nosedive when Tyreke Evans starts to do more stuff. Am I completely out of my mind?
No. They need that initiator, that identity. You lose a big piece like Oladipo. I mean, that's going to take a little bit, to bounce back from. They had that weird game, last night where the box score was extremely weird, and you just kind of wonder, what are they going to settle in as a team? Miles Turner, had the big night, and Domantas Sabonis did not. You got the guards there. Corey Joseph is serviceable. I think they like him. He provides some stability, but you have some rookies. Aaron Holiday, Edmund Sumner is probably somebody that you guys are going to want to look into, not necessarily pick up, but in these deeper leagues, he is he's good. He's got the locals' attention defensively. He might have a good stat set. We don't have too much intel on him, but he's definitely somebody that will play a role, but they don't have that go-to scorer. And if it is going to be Tyreke Evans, he's the one guy that qualifies as a spark plug for that offense. You got to have somebody who can beat somebody off the dribble. Like, if you don't have that, you are the Orlando Magic. And so, yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And it's a shame that right when he kind of got thrust into fantasy prominence, he got hurt again. You do also have an all-star break coming up, and that's big for a lot of guys. There's going to be a full week off for all these players. So guys like Tyreke, who need the rest, they could come slingshotting out of that thing. So I like him in 8 cat leagues for sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty pro Tyreke as well. I think there's this. He probably got dropped in a lot of spots because of the injury, and rightfully so, because he had one game to make an impact. He was terrible, and then he got in the car wreck. I think he comes out of this thing and he's the guy that gets them interested again the rest of the way, because the body language on that team is not outstanding right now. Trying to figure out the best couple of questions here, because I want to get us over to the chat room in the next 2 or 3 minutes. So I'm going to pull a few things out of my list, and I'm going to leave just the last couple. And number one is
about the Heat, Dan.
Oh, they were never on the list this week. I gave them I gave them my all-star snub for the Friday show. Atlanta is a spot I want to go, because we haven't talked much about them, and they have 3 really interesting veterans on the trade block. But that trade with Porzingis actually, I think, probably hurts the Hawks, where the value for guys like Kent Bazemore, Dwayne Dedmon likely goes down, with other teams saying, you know what, now we're about to get a Wes Matthews and DeAndre Jordan on the market as well. So what do the Hawks do? Do they buy these guys out if they can't move them? Do they keep them around because they've been sort of helpful to have on the team? What are you doing with Atlanta? And then to narrow it down even further, is there a universe where Alex Len can be a top 100 guy after the deadline?
Well, Alex Len has been good. and he's actually helped me out. You know, there was a little time during the preseason where Alex Len was making a little bit of noise, and you know, when you're at pick 180 or 200, you know, you're seeing him there, and you're going, hey, I could use a backup center. So it's been nice for a couple of my teams. I think the answer is yes, he can be. You know, especially if Dedmon goes, he's almost forced into it. And, you know, from there, you got to ask yourself, can he stay healthy? There's a lot of question marks with Alex Len. So if you need a big and you got somebody to drop and you're looking long-term and saying, look, I got to get a good big, I got to put my marker down somewhere, Alex Len is definitely somewhere to look. I do think that there would be a market for Dedmon. You know, the deal's easier to fit into other deals. This Bazemore thing, I just think that, you know, so much has been made of it that it's almost taken on a life of its own. There could easily be a deal sending Bazemore out of town, but you know, they got. It seems like they have so many players, but in reality, they don't. Like, really, do they want to play Jeremy Lin, you know, 25 minutes a game down the stretch when they're tanking and they're trying to fit in minutes for the rest of, you know, the Kevin Huerters of the world, Huters,
the Kevins. We can just call him Kevin.
Kevins of the world. I mean, they want to get Besbris minutes. So those two are their young guys. They want to see what they have. But then you got Prince, who's probably sick of sitting on the shelf, you know, and the same thing with Bazemore. And I think those two guys just sort of like Baze will slot into 27 minutes and ride that the rest of the way if he stays with Atlanta. And then I do think with Prince, he's sort of going to demand that he gets 30 minutes per game because he's better than everybody else. And, you know, so those four players are going to take up a lot of minutes. And you have a guy like Omari Spellman who looks a little thinner, and that's going to be a key for him because he's a pretty good basketball player. But when his weight gets up, then you can't keep him on the floor. He's got a nice little stat set there. I'm not.
Is there anybody you're
going to try to deal
on? I guess is the question. Is there anybody you're sitting on? Is the answer Len of all of those guys that has the quickest path?
No, Baze is like
Baze
is a
I
top
think
50 guy.
Right, I mean, he's a guy that I'm assuming is on teams. Baze, I think, is on
those
rosters.
Two are locks. I think Huerter is the guy like that. You know, look at his stat line from the Kings game, you know, 11, 4 and 4 with 3 threes, 2 steals and a block. Granted, that was a summer league game if I'd ever seen one.
Yeah.
And the Kings fans were hilarious talking about how great their front court of the future was in a summer league game. But I think Huerter is, you know, somebody that won't kill you like Besbris. Besbris fun. You know, he can pop off with a 5x5 line, I'm pretty sure.
But he might also shoot 2 for 16 and 1 for 8 at the free throw line. Yeah.
Huerter's the play. Besbris a couple rounds beneath him. And then, you know, from there, you just got to kind of see what shakes out at the trade deadline. But they got some interesting assets. Dedmon is the one I would bet that gets dealt.
And the last question I've got for you before we go to basically it's going to have to be like a full lightning round because we got a boatload of questions today, is the Lakers front court spot. Last night was as murky as it's been at any point all season long. They ran Zoo out there to start the game, and he just got torched by the Clippers. Then they brought in McGee, and he played well in the first half. And then they just took him out for the first half of the second quarter because apparently Tyson Chandler needed to get some early game run, and they got torched. And then McGee came in, and he played better again. And then in the second half, they all got torched. What the hell's going on? I mean, at the end of it all yesterday, McGee was the one who ended up with the better game. He played 16 and a half minutes. Zubac 17 and a half. Tyson Chandler 18. Yeah, I'm not making this up. This was an overtime game, by the way. And McGee had 11 and 5 with a steal and 2 blocks. That's basically what you want out of him. But why is it taking the Lakers so long to figure out that Tyson Chandler's probably not going to be the answer at center? I get why they threw him in against Boban. That made sense. They needed the strength out there, but really, why play 3 centers?
I think LeBron likes playing with Tyson Chandler. Like, that's the only thing that really makes sense because he's not good. I mean, let's just be real. You know, JaVale McGee still brings an athletic edge to the table and, you know, is a legitimate lob threat and, you know, protects the paint and, you know, can hang in a pick and roll situation. Zubac is the one I think that loses here. the good news is he probably will get back on the radar because Tyson Chandler probably can't stay healthy, and McGee's a health risk as well. But I don't think Zubac is a must-own player. You know, he had his chance. What he needed to have happen was for him and McGee to split a 24-minute role and to be good in that 24-minute role. What a hilarious game last night. That it was a total Rajon Rondo game. I mean, in both sides, it was the stupidest game I'd seen in a while. But yeah, no, this is a LeBron thing. And I think you just, with McGee, treat him as a top 75 guy. And, you know, hope that he somehow gets that early season kickback.
All right, question time. But before we get there, Brew, there's a logo on our screen that you can see if you're watching the show. And that logo belongs to our buddies at Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company. In fact, one of the first posts in the chat room was FS Yuhiko. I might be getting the order of letters wrong. Was saying that they've been craving Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee. Craving it, Brew. You got some going this morning?
I do, but what I've been, and you know, your Urban Dictionary jokes aside, the French press has been spectacular.
You Googled it. I told you not to Google it.
Well, you can't say it, Dan, and then it's like, how many people Googled Evan Fournier? Like, how many people did it? Like 60%, 70%?
Oh man, I'm sure you could put like
anytime you tell somebody not to do something, how'd that work? Prohibition. How did that work?
Yeah, not great. Not great. But I'm sure you could put almost any nationality before the word press, and it's probably something on Urban Dictionary. You got the French press. I'm sure you got like the Portuguese press. You got the American press. The American one probably has like cheddar cheese involved somehow. Anyway, what you got going on the coffee side, Brew?
Well, I don't know if they want this kind of affiliation, Dan.
No,
so you might need to pull this back, and I'll promise not to mention it every time.
Yeah, stop talking about your damn French press, Brew.
Well, it's freaking good, man. You asked me about the coffee, all right? And it's like, okay, we're gonna make this about the coffee, all right?
Yes.
The chocolate Hapia, I'm probably mispronouncing that, is outstanding. Like, you get these flavored coffees that it's just a bunch of BS. This is just it's a good coffee with a subtle chocolate hint, and then the chocolate coconut does the same thing but adds just a hint of coconut, and it's just smooth. So it's, you know, if you're not trying to have like some coconut flavor like in your coffee, you're not trying to have chocolate in your coffee. You're trying to have coffee with those items. Yeah, so it's been very good, and more people are clamoring for the coffee prize than they are for the shirt.
Yeah, it's true.
Rowdy. And the DFS contest, which, by the way, Dan, did you notice I finished practically dead last?
I did see that, Brew. You had a rough one this time around. I missed by my traditional 20 points again, so if that makes you feel any better. I actually would rather be you because you won money and then you were dead last, and I've been like 35th place every week for a month. I can't
go big or go home, Dan. Your lack of risk taking is definitely showing itself right now.
I know. I'm a very safe fantasy NBA guy, and I got to shake that to play DFS. By the way, congrats to Clint Jones. He's the winner of the coffee this week. I got to get an address from him so we can get that sent over. Clint Jones taking home the Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee. Those of you that haven't been playing with us, come play with us. It's fun. It's mostly hoop ballers, so a lot of us are actually not that great. Which means if you are actually good at DFS, you're probably going to beat the hell out of us every single week. That'll be happening next Wednesday as well. And Brew, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's February 1, so that means we got a deal going on the premium membership the rest of the year, right?
I did notice there was an uptick in premium purchases, and I was like, why? Oh, that's right, because stuff's on special. So, yeah, it's right now it's a smoking deal. And really, as we go into the trade deadline and getting our shows are outstanding, man. I can't say enough about the team that you've assembled. That keeps growing, and it's just so at night you can get all of your questions answered. You can really get just a in-depth, beyond the blurbs, beyond what you read on Twitter. You can hash this stuff out. You can get this stuff for $7.99 right now. The February price for the premium products $9.99. We're doing $2 off, so really $7.99, and it can take you through the trade deadline, and it can take you through this last third and into your fantasy playoffs and really make an impact on your team. Those chats are outstanding, and I can't say enough about it, as well as the articles. I mean, God, man, Dio wrote like a dynasty article for the ages the other day. You can't find this stuff anywhere else. We just got too much firepower, Dan.
Yeah,
it's too much.
That's right. Cannons, baby, to the left of them and cannons to the right. I always think of that old Fresh Prince episode too. Okay, we got about 20 minutes for questions on today's show.
All right, let's do this.
We got 4 full pages of them and counting. So I'm going to do my best to rumble through them. To those of you listening, you're going to hear me say a few times as I'm reading to make sure I'm actually about to give Brew a question and not just tell him something else insane that's being written in the chat room. Because you guys got a good chat going today. Chris says, based on playoff schedule, is it a good time to trade away Kawhi Leonard?
Look, I'm not big on just trading away your best players because of a playoff schedule. One, you got to get there. 2, you got to probably win at least 1 week, depending on how many teams advance to the playoffs. So you really got to be choosy with these kinds of deals. But yeah, I look at it as increments. You know, like if you consider Kawhi Leonard to be a top 8 player the rest of the way, and you want to move him for a top 12 or top 15 guy, maybe there's some upside to that. But yeah, no, I'm not big on pre-planning for the playoffs to that degree.
Is there any universe where Kenneth Faried holds value after Clint Capella is back? I doubt it.
Nah. It's too many things. He's benefiting from the lob, and why would you run the lob with Kenneth Faried when you got Clint Capella on the floor?
Yeah. Pascal Siakam, buy, sell, or hold? Is this? That's a good question, I guess. I'll leave it at that.
I think you always want to buy into a younger player on a team with older players that, you know, he's better than in many respects, and he's going to continue to improve. So, yeah, I think you just buy into him where you can.
Yeah, I feel like he's settled into basically where he's going to be this year. He's number 41 in 9CAT after that top 25 start. He's been hovering near more like top 50 numbers for a while now. I think that's a pretty damn good spot for him to end up, considering you probably drafted him at like 125. So, yeah, it's a buy-in for the future and a hold for the present, I think. Jim Collins says, what a proud day to be
I think he's a hoop ball guy, too.
Absolutely.
Like, I think we smoked everybody on that one.
And he's not injured right now, knock on table, so maybe one that might not pile on the 9 injured players. I dropped Thomas Bryant for Jonathan Isaac last night. Of those two, Brew, which do you want the rest of the way? I'm on Team Isaac now.
Yeah, you know, and I know that Bryant's catching some flack right now, and he just got highlighted in a Zach Lowe article, so that's going to, you know, Zach Lowe basically tells people what to think. Bryant is not as good as Isaac, whether we're talking talent or, you know, fantasy situation. But Bryant's going to be fine. Let's not discard him because of a couple bad games. I think he's a must-known player as well.
I traded AD for Rudy Gobert, and I'm not looking back. Brew, it sounds like you approve.
I do. Congratulations.
Yeah, I guess man, I guess you kind of, I don't know. I'd almost rather, again, it depends on where you are in the standings for me. If you're like,
look, these are tough calls, people.
Yeah.
Like, there's no right answers here, but I mean, that's what this is all about. You know, you go with your gut. I remember walking in before I'm definitely scratching my own back here today. You know, before I walked in and won this 30 grand in this national fantasy football contest, and working at Road World at the time. And I'm messaging with Greg Rosenthal and getting final advice before I go in. And he's just like, go with your gut. That's the best advice I've ever gotten. And I've gotten it from multiple people. You just got to go with your gut on this stuff. You'll feel fine afterwards, whether you win or lose.
My take is get out from under AD if you are at the very top or very bottom of your league. And if you're in the middle, that's where things get pretty murky, and you kind of need him to be good if you have any chance of winning that thing. Mario Hezonja, he played big minutes in that last ball game. Is there any chance he holds value the rest of the way?
I wanted to throw up when you just said his name.
Okay, then.
No. No.
Jim, sorry, this question is not a lightning round question, but it just asks, oh, you're asking Beans. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. I thought it was for us. Jim was asking Beans how his team is doing this year, not us, Brew. Nobody cares how our teams are doing. Are we worried at all about Chris Dunn under Jim Boylan?
You know, he had a bad game, and then he had a good game. He had a bad game, he had a good game. He's been a top 50 guy, which is where we pegged him. So I'm not too worried about it, but it is a little disconcerting that the Bulls are so dumb. You just feel like, oh man, this isn't working. But he's been good, and he's probably a buy low guy. Because the rest of the way, especially if they can sort of just, I don't know, how can they get Jim Boylan out of there? You know, like, tell them that the game is at a different place and that everybody shows up where the game is actually being played. I don't know.
I still think that he's been told to look like the biggest clown on earth so that they can just tank away and Garpax gets blamed less than Jim Boylan. That's still my tinfoil hat theory.
Stuff happens, folks.
I'm telling you, man, that bought him an extra year on his contract. They're like, go out there and dance like a buffoon and we'll give you an extra $1 million.
One day when I have time, I'll drop the full story of the Sacramento Kings, and like just that stuff happens.
Yeah, man, get a burner account going, Brew, and drop it now. Who is DJ Wilson? That's a great question, Ben.
He is a lanky basketball player. That's who he is. Like, I understand why people are thinking, man, this guy could be something. Because man, he is lanky and he's big and he kind of takes up space, but I don't know if it's ever going to come together for him.
No, his path is blocked right now too. So that's a way down the line thing, if anything at all. Trying to make sure I'm getting to the next question here. These are a couple people saying hello and thanking you for the draft guide. That was there's another hello from JP. Oh, here we go. Luke Cornett, Bobby Portis, Dwight Powell. Among those three guys, who is your least favorite? Is it Portis?
Ooh, that's a very, very intriguing question because Portis can kind of trip and fall, I think, and get you top 100 the rest of the way. And he's going to suck certain nights, so it's going to look not so great. But he's just he's a usage guy. He's going to just get out there and try to get it done.
He's a chucker, man.
Has the upside. Yeah, he's a chucker. And then Cornet's got the upside. Who's the third one again? I already froze. Powell.
Yep.
Powell's your safe upside guy.
So
you get a different flavor out of each of them. I think Cornet's got probably the most upside out of the group, so I'm probably not going to have him in my the guy that we kick out here. Let's kick out Bobby Portis.
Yep, I'm with you on that one. Are there any players whose opinions you've shifted on dramatically this season? I think there's one for me, and I think it's recent run D'Angelo Russell. He looks a lot better.
So we talked about that quite a bit on the Cos and Brew show.
Go listen to that when it gets uploaded. How about that for our tees?
There's real quick on him though, like from all this All-Star talk, you gotta understand he sucked so bad for 2 months, like legitimately looked terrible on a basketball court. I don't think one good month should make this like a must add D'Angelo Russell to the All-Star game or really change our opinion of him in this dramatic way that you're seeing now. He's this blue chip prospect. He's had a great month. The shooting regression is coming and it's going to hurt. And it might have started in this last one. I think he was 8 of 26 from the field. But here's the thing. You signed Spencer Dinwiddie to a deal and you're D'Angelo Russell. Everything's been put on a silver platter for you your whole life. You get drafted to LA. You get to do all the star stuff. You basically then get sent off to Brooklyn and you still think you're the man and you still do all the stupid stuff that you've done in your entire career. And then they sign Spencer Dinwiddie and you're like, oh, wait, I'm the odd man out. It doesn't shock me that he's pulled it together a little bit. And if he does that, then he's taken a big, big step forward. So my opinion on him has indeed shifted. I think I didn't know if he was capable of doing what he's doing right now. But there are a lot of, question marks. You got low free throw rates. You've got this shooting regression. He's not going to shoot 49% forever. So how does he look when he's shooting 38% for the field for the next month? That's my question.
We shall see. Most of you saw me turn around and grab at something. My dog was having a nightmare right behind me, and I wanted to make sure she was okay. Daddy McKee says top pre-trade deadline stashes. We talked about Atlanta with Herter and possibly Alex Len. Is there anybody else floating around on a team, I would say, likely to send some bodies away that would free up minutes for you? This is a tough one and kind of a tough one to do in a quick segment. But does anybody pop into your head besides Atlanta Hawks?
I mean, New Orleans, I think we covered them in depth. I mean, I'll tell you what. Hit me with more questions, and I'll spit out an answer in about 15 seconds.
All right. Aside from Woj and Shams, who's the other must-turn-on notification guy for you on Twitter? Nobody.
No, give me Mark Stein.
Oh,
Mark
there you
Stein.
Go. Yeah, he's done a good job. And who's the Chris something? Didn't he break a big story last year also? I forget who. Anyway, Bean says...
Sheridan?
I don't know. I can't remember. Bean says, LOL at Hebrew National Hat, we answer to a higher authority. That's true. That was their commercial for a while. Who's the most widely available player out there that would boost, oh my God, field goal percent, steals, rebounds, and low turnovers? I mean, I guess Larry Nance pops into your head when you see those 4 categories, but that's a tough one to isolate. Field goal percent, steals, rebounds, and low turnovers. Maybe Dwight Powell, who just popped up.
Yeah, I was going to say Dwight Powell's the guy.
Can Pat Beverly keep this up after Gallo comes back? Damn, I hope so. His defensive stats are finally coming around, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, this is all tied to Gallo. So if Gallo's back, then you can see Pat Beverly struggle again. What's really fascinating is when you take away Gallo and teams now, they want to cover up Tobias Harris. They're dealing with Montrezl Harrell. Patrick Beverly is the guy that teams are willing to let handle the ball. They're willing to let Beverly beat him. So Beverly's been energized. He might be a little bit healthier. He's definitely a must-own player. You hope he can keep it up. He has 2 gears. Last year before he got hurt, he was kind of running at like a top 60 level, and it was a small sample size. And he's engaged like that. He's a great fantasy asset. And the answer to your question that is, who could be a guy that is off the radar right now on a team that might get rid of some players. And I don't know how far off the radar he is, but I think people are still uneasy about him. But it is Mr. 2 years away from being 2 years away, Bruno Caboclo.
Intriguing. All right. We'll keep rumbling along here with the lightning round. Would you trade Josh Richardson for Jaren Jackson Jr.?
Indubitably.
Very nice. Could Kevin Durant end up on the Mavs in free agency? I don't think so. I think they're capped out.
No.
Yeah. Now that Dennis Smith Jr.'s future is more clear, who would you see as a better keeper in 8-cat dynasty? He, Dennis Smith, or Gilgeous-Alexander between those 2 guys?
Well, I mean, that depends on what you think of Gilgeous-Alexander, because I think what we do know about Dennis Smith Jr. is that he's going to be a dynamic scoring guard. His field goal percentage is always going to be a question mark, but the shape of his stat set, at least we know what that is. And, as it improves, he could probably be a top. And I'll say this about his future in New York. We don't know. If a Kyrie Irving and a Kevin Durant land there, or if a Kyrie Irving lands there, then Dennis Smith Jr. suddenly becomes Dennis Smith Jr. of this year, which isn't that good. I'm going to take Shai Gilgeous-Alexander here because I think that they like him in LA, and he can build his game, and become maybe sort of like a auto point
guard. Charleston says he likes your hairstyle today, Brew. So got that going for you.
You mean like not a homeless look?
Tousled. Pleasantly tousled.
That's what I did. I tousled it when I woke up.
Yeah. What up, Coach? Just saying hey to I see you in the chat room there. Would you drop Patrick Beverly for Luke Cornett or Mitchell Robinson?
Yes to both.
Interesting. I definitely would for Mitchell Robinson. I'm not totally sold on giving up on Bev for Cornett right now. I'm on the fence with that one. Jaren Jackson Jr., rest of season outlook. We just talked about him being a guy you were targeting. What do you think he goes in 9-cat? Top 50, top 70? Where does he end up this year? The rest of the way.
In 9-cat, I'm going to give him top 30.
Woof. Wow.
Woof.
Woof. What's wrong with Paul Millsap? Will he ever get back to a top 60 mark this year?
Probably not. I mean, they got a lot of players coming back. And they got players that have now earned their minutes. Like Malik Beasley's not coming out of the lineup these days. You got a guy like Monty Morris not coming back out of the lineup these days. They got a lot of good players there. So yeah, I'm not optimistic about Mr. Millsap.
You got to drop one of the following 3 players. This is you got to find a deeper league, Ben. De'Aaron Fox, Jamal Murray, Chris Dunn. Who would you drop out of those 3 guys? The answer is none, but if you had to pick one.
Jamal Murray. Yeah, I probably drop Jamal Murray in that shallow league.
Man. You got to make a 2-for-1 trade is what you need to do. Put 2 of those guys together. Put Fox and Jamal Murray together and ask for a top 40, top 35 guy or something like that. That's got to be the way to do it. Abi says, how do I join Hoopball DFS? Well, I answered it in the chat room, but I'll answer it here as well. We tweet out the links every week from at Dan Besbris, at Aaron Bruski, at Hoopball Fantasy, and at Hoopball Tweets. If you're not on Twitter, send a note to support at hoop-ball.com, and they can make sure that gets to me, and then we'll get your email address added to our mailing list, which we send out just one a week when the contest opens. We'd love to have you jump in. It is filling up quickly. We just got a bigger room, up to 125 now, so hopefully that'll buy us a little bit more time. And we'd love to have all of you guys join us in the DFS stuff. Marcus Smart or Chris Dunn rest of season?
Oh, Chris Dunn.
That's what I figured on that one as well. Guys talking about Hart, Bobby Portis in a fist fight, and Chris Haynes is the name. Someone help me out on that one. Chris Haynes has been breaking some stuff lately.
He has. He's an up-and-coming writer. In fact, it's been fun to watch his progress because he started off with the Blazers beat, and he was real accessible in places like Summer League. Just a cool guy. He's got game, too. He can play hoop. So he's been somebody that's been able to connect with players, and that's really what this business, if you're on the news-breaking side, it's about connecting with people, and it's a real grind. I mean, I've definitely slowed down in that area, and it's it's not for the faint of heart.
And then the last post here, Daddy McKee says the best breaking reporter to follow right now is Caron Butler. Darn right. Well done. And that's our show for today, everybody. We got through the questions. We got through the topics. Brew, any final thoughts before we send folks into the weekend?
Oh, no, I barely heard you there, Dan. I think I've got ringing ears from the landscaper. No, just enjoy this week. This is like one of the best weeks of fantasy basketball. We don't know crap. Things are going to happen. The fast people win. The people that are plugged in, they win. You can turn your league this week just by being quick on the draw. So stay plugged into our premium stuff. Stay plugged into the Twitter stuff. I mean, all the stuff on the site, the blurbs, everything is just great. And make a move, man. I really love it. So we'll see you guys around the site. And that's all I got for you, Dan.
And the last thing I will mention is the beginning here of promo time, trade deadline live special here on YouTube. So easy to get to, free, 4 hours, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time on Thursday morning. I will be there. Brew will be there. The Hoopball staff will be there. The ITL guys will be there. It's going to be a wingding. Last year we covered every trade as it was happening, and as I've said on a few shows, I have no problem with interrupting anybody on the show if something from Woj blasts across the timeline. Don't bother with the television. Those guys have to wait for commercial breaks. We don't. We will make sure you are the fastest when news breaks on trade deadline morning. Brew, I'm so freaking excited. Even though Porzingis already got
leagues for people with that stuff.
Yep.
I mean, last year, 2 years ago, I remember Rashawn Holmes, and we went, I won 10 grand that year. I'm sure all of you guys won your league. So it's a great show. It's fun. It's so just fun to have on. It's, you got other stuff that's going on. I think Yahoo does a show, but who knows? I think half those guys have moved on.
Yeah. And they got to wait.
The coverage of the trade deadline, I think you'll get some stuff on ESPN, but there's nothing else out there that's covering it from a fantasy perspective and doing it quite like we do. So
that's right.
I'm really excited about the show.
We are the fastest. They might give you the news at the same time we give you the news, but then they're just going to talk about blah, 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 who's going to win ball games. We don't care who's going to win ball games. We care who's going to get assists, rebounds, steals, blocks, three-pointers, and whatnot. He is Aaron Bruski. I am Dan Besbris. Follow us on Twitter. Have a wonderful weekend. Fantasy NBA Today back with a reverse chronological lightning round on Monday. We will talk to you then.